And it is Wednesday night here at Green Oaks Gaming. I'm Joe. Wednesday night means it is time to look at inspirations, having a miniature inspire character creation. So generally we have stuck with player character creation based off of a cool miniature that we found, and tonight we're going to flip that. On the screen behind me you can see I've got a miniature that I've already started to paint on, and that has given me some inspiration. So we're going to switch gears, and this will not be for the players per se, but for the GMs and DMs out there. So process-wise, this show is all about finding a cool miniature and building a character or a monster, or creature, whatever, based off that miniature. So oftentimes as we are creating, we have an idea and a concept, and we put together a creature, a character, a monster, something, and then trying to find a miniature to meet that means we have to start sculpting, we have to special order. It can be very time consuming, very challenging, and also very expensive. So the whole thought of this show is, if we can find a cool miniature, whether we're shopping in our local friendly gaming store, we're shopping online, we're at a convention and we see something that looks cool, unique, different, really speaks to us, how can we use that to then generate characters, creatures, monsters, etc. So with that being said, let's jump right into this show. So you can see the miniature that I have here is a troll, and as I said, I've already started to paint this miniature. And this one, I guess to give some backstory, with a Kickstarter that I did, I had a number of trolls, and I collected them all out, got them all cleaned up, got them prepped, I got them ready to paint, and I thought I had them all. But as I was going through a different expansion, there was another troll that's got the same kind of body style, same proportions, same scale, very similar base to the others. Sorry, I'm just working on cleaning up some of the poster tack that I have here, because as I'm painting, that poster tack sticks. But so I completed 3 other trolls prior to this one, and I thought I had all the trolls done. They had consistent skin tones and painted very similar. But then I came across this one and I thought, oh, I missed a troll, so I put it in the to-do pile, but I hadn't touched it for a long time. So as I was going through and looking at it, I thought it was a little unique and different. So the other trolls are just unarmed, unarmored, and just regular standard run-of-the-mill trolls. But this troll had some uniqueness about it. So it's got some type of barring or slat on it for armor. And I know that isn't showing up great in the camera. I do apologize. Let's see if we can block this in a little bit better so we focus on it. It also has this turtle shell shield. It's carrying a sword, and it's all notched up and nasty looking, so it looks real rusted. And then it's got this crazy kettle for a helmet. So I'm calling it Kettlehead Troll, is what I've been just what I've roughly named it. And you can tell I haven't gotten very far on the painting. I did the skin tone, I did the face, and then I've started to work on the skirt that it's wearing. But I haven't gotten too far on it. But I thought, what a unique and different troll. This isn't your average troll. And to kind of reiterate this, I brought out my monster manual. I do also have a monster sheet. This is the sheet that I use when I'm gaming. And I just want to go all the way back here in the monster manual for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition to trolls. And talk about why this one is very different. So in the stat block, I have to move a couple of things here for my manual to sit. So in the stat block, it talks about a couple of things. They generally have just their natural armor. And you can see in the image there, that's just their thick, kind of rubbery hide. They regenerate, and so they don't really do a whole lot. And then for their actions, they do have a multi-attack, 3 attacks, a bite and 2 with its claws. So I would think that's a bite and then a swipe. One hand, one swipe, the other hand, another swipe. But as I was looking at this troll, I thought how unique and different that it's got arms and armor. Now their intelligence is 7, which means they're not as sharp, right? 10 is a standard, but 7 doesn't mean that they're just absolutely stupid. So would it make sense for a troll who was armed and armored and hired by someone else to use weapons and armor? Why not? I don't think they're stupid. They're not just brutes. They've just got a horrific appetite. So in the book it does say they eat anything they can catch and devour. They have no society to speak of, but they do serve as mercenaries to orcs, ogres, ettins, hags, and giants. As payment, trolls demand food and treasure. Trolls are difficult to control, however, doing as they please, even when working with more powerful creatures. So I'm thinking about the treasure. Could it be things like a decorated shield and a sword and a armor, right? Even if it's a kettle for a helmet, to me it makes sense that this guy here is working for someone else. And it could be a cool encounter to have this with maybe 1 or 2 other trolls. This is kind of the head troll, right, who thinks he's doing all the fast talking. Maybe we'll up his intelligence, whatever the case may be. He's ahead of the other 3 trolls if I have multi-troll encounters. Ultimately, if I want to just have this one troll per trolling, randomly moving through a dungeon encounter area, maybe he's working for an ettin, or who knows? All different kinds of possibilities. The point is that he is unique and different. So, as a creature, we should treat him as that. And I like to call this a leveled up monster. So, I am going to build this as I would a character that I'm going to use in my dungeons as a DM. So I'm going to call this the Kettlehead Troll, just because that Kettlehead is just, it's comical in so many ways, but it's also kind of ingenious. It's a heavy iron pot. I mean, why wouldn't a troll want to use that as a helmet? Alrighty. Now my process here is I am just going to rearrange a little bit so that we can keep this on screen. You can follow along as I fill out my character sheet. Again, this is just a sheet that I use at the gaming table. I can quickly pull it out. I fill it out with ink, and then I keep track, keep notes and everything on pencil so I can erase it. Or I'll put it into just a clear tabbed sleeve, put it in my binder, and then I can use a dry erase marker to note on the plastic sleeve and then just wipe it off after the encounter. So that's my process. If you want this sheet, you can get that as a free download on my Patreon. So this is a large giant, and they start out as chaotic evil. So I don't use alignment a whole ton in my games other than for specific things. I think alignment is definitely something that ebbs and flows as the story goes. So unless there are things tied to alignment, I don't really use it. But I do always mark it down just so that I have a good idea of how I'm going to portray and play the monsters or characters or NPCs in my game. So a regular troll has an armor class of 15, natural armor. So we know when you're using a shield, you automatically get a +2 to your armor class. And this troll does have a shield. It's a tortoise shell. So I am going to give him an armor class of 17. That's going to be natural armor plus shield and bits, I'm going to call it. Because I don't think this little bit, I mean, it'll help a little bit, but not a whole ton. Especially when your characters are going more at the, kind of legs and waist and everything, height-wise. They're not going to really, unless they specifically call out they're doing an overhanded swing or anything, they're not going to get that Kettlehead. Now, hit points. So your average is 84, and then your highest point, the highest they can get, I write both down, is going to be 120. That's 8d10 plus 40. Their speed is 30 feet. And then here's where I'm going to play a little bit with the, I call it leveling up. So just like a character would level up, I want to start looking at how this troll here, I mean, he's obviously unique and different. He's not just an average run-of-the-mill troll. So how would we level up this troll? So I'm going to start with an ability increase, and I'm going to say he's up a couple of levels. So our strength, we're going to keep the same as 18, so it's a +4. Dexterity, no change. Constitution, no change. Here's where I'm going to change is the intelligence. I'm going to move up to 9. So I'm going to move it up 2 points. 2 ability score increases. And you think about a player character where they're not, 1 level they're not going to increase 2. But I want to specialize this troll. So it spent all its points on intelligence increases. So that will be a -1. Wisdom is also going to be a 9 with a -1, and charisma a 7 with a -2. It's still just a stinking troll. So skills, we've got perception +2. Senses, we've got dark vision, and that's 60 feet. And the passive perception is going to be 12. Languages, it's going to speak giant. And because we've increased its intelligence, I'm actually going to give it one more. And I am going to say it is also going to speak orc. Now I do generally write down the challenge rating on here, and because we're making this one a little bit tougher, a little bit meaner, and a little bit more specific, instead of a challenge rating of 5, I'm going to give it a challenge rating of 6. Tactics, it does have keen smell, which is advantage on wisdom, and that's perception. Checks that rely on smell. It's that big honkin' nose. And then also regeneration. A common element of trolls, right? Now this is one where me and some other GMs disagree quite a bit. So the regeneration, Kettlehead regains 10 hit points at the start of the turn. If Kettlehead takes acid, fire damage, the regeneration doesn't function. The troll dies only if it starts its turn with 0 hit points and doesn't regenerate. So a lot of GMs, and I have discussed with a lot of GMs on how this whole regeneration part and parcel goes. And there is a lot of variation to this discussion. So many GMs, when the players start using fire and acid, they rule that as metagaming and start asking how the player characters will know that. I don't. I automatically, if the character breaks out a torch or pulls out a vial of acid, in my opinion, trolls should be, in our game worlds, a real threat, right? We talk about trolls in bedtime stories and everything. Why would that be any different in our game worlds? So as people are talking about, to kids and cautionary tales and adventures swapped around inns, talking about how only acid and fire have been able to damage the troll. Now you may want to twist that on its head a bit, and in your game world, rather than acid and fire, maybe it's lightning and piercing as they bleed out. That's the only type of damage, but the wounds close, so it has to be a high amount of piercing damage, whatever the case may be, silver weapons or something along those lines. But I think having your player characters having some knowledge of weaknesses of monsters really can make a lot of sense, especially if they're adventurers who have moved around the area, heard a lot of stories, and that's what they're getting into. It's like saying that a violinist wouldn't be able to read music. It just doesn't make sense. So for me, those types of call-outs, I'm in a different area than many other GMs. All right, I got off topic pretty bad. Let's keep going. So actions, we've got a multi-attack. And so I'm going to list these out. There are 3 attacks. 1 bite and 2, I'm going to put arms. And here's why I'm going to do that. A bite is going to be a +7 to hit. It's going to be a 5-foot, 1 target. And it is going to do a 1d6 +4 pierce. Now I am going to put a claw. And that is going to be a +7 to hit. That is also going to be a 5-foot, 1 target. And that is going to be a 2d6 +4 slash. Because if the troll is unarmored, it can do the claw attack. But because this troll is armed, I also want to have it do weapon attacks. And for that, I'm actually going to grab my player's handbook. Because I am doing this as a specialty monster, I'm going to go in and pull some information from the other source books. So, with that sword there, I mean that, if you compare that to an average PC, that's a pretty massive sword. That is not a short sword, even though it looks like it to the troll. That is definitely not a short sword. So I am going to call that a great sword. And that is going to be a +7 to hit. And that is also going to have a 5-foot, 1 target. And that will do 2d6 +4 slash. So no real difference than with the claws. But it gives us another option to attack. And then I'm also going to do, in here, I'm going to flip to my fighter. And I just want to look real quick and see on the shield bashing, which I believe is in the defense or the protection. Let's check and see here real quick. I'm just going through and looking. I thought it might be under the maneuvers, but it may be in Xanthar's. Let's see, maybe we'll give it a, because it's fighting, let's see. We'll give this one, so down here in the bottom, in the notes section, we move this up against my paint here. But that's okay, we will adjust. All right, so in my notes here, I am actually going to add a fighting style. Because this troll is unique and different, it has learned a protection fighting style. So I'm going to creature, you see, attacks a target other than you. that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage. On the attack roll. And you must be wielding a shield. So he can't, it gives him a reason not to drop that shield and use his 2 claw attacks. And then let's see, I'm trying to decide if I want to do anything like combat superiority. As a battle master. Yeah, I'm going to do 2 superiority dice, so it's half of what the battle master would have just because it's a monster. We're going to do 2 1d8. And that allows us to do some maneuvers. I think for this one here, that will be on a So I want to really narrow it down so I have a specific attack. But I don't know if I want to narrow it down and just pick one. I want to be able to have that ability to utilize different ones depending on the situation, just like a character would. So yeah, I'm not going to pick one out, but I'm going to put here that the first choice is going to be the precision attack. Which allows us to add a d8 to attack roll. It's going to be the first kind of go-to for this. Now, additionally, in the treasures, I am going to grab my DM's guide. So the great sword, I'm going to put down here rough and rusty great sword. The value on that is 25. No, we'll make it 20 gold pieces. That's half of what an average greatsword would be, but it's in such rough shape that it has to be cleaned and sharpened and the whole 9 yards for any value. But I want to use that as part of the treasure that this troll is going to be carrying. I don't want to just have a mass of coins. So moving into the treasure area, on the chart for individual treasure, we know that this is a CR6. So I'm going to go through and see what the gold piece value that this creature would have. And average is going to be 70 gold. So we've still got 50 gold to go. Really, I don't see a lot of value in the pot. Nothing that's a gold piece even. Maybe 1 gold piece. Nothing in the shield. Nothing in the bits of armor. So we're still going to have 50 gold pieces in treasure. And that'll be some of the payment that this Kettlehead has gotten from the orcs or ogres, or could be an Etten, whoever has kind of hired this troll to go around and guard and keep out intruders. Keeping it in the pouch, and really helped kind of train this troll to be a better guard for the dungeon that the characters are going to explore. Now we could go through and list out what that treasure is. A lot of that could vary on the campaign. If we want to have, carved statues be a thing, if we wanted it to be coins, or we wanted it to be raw gold nuggets, if we wanted it to be some type of an art object, however we want to dress up, it should make sense for the story that we're running it in. I'm going to, real quick, just so we can do a quick comparison, since that really didn't take a whole long time, I'm going to grab the other trolls off the shelf just so we can see them side by side. Well, maybe I need to grab a light. Okay, so here are 2 of the 3 other trolls, and you can see they're not quite as bright green, right? We definitely used a variant green on them, which is why I like to paint all of my miniatures as much as possible at once, so that we have good consistency in the color. But that's okay, because this guy's a little bit different and unique. It will stand out a little bit more on the gaming table, but that's okay because of the different skills and attributes and training that he has received. He probably has gotten a different diet as well. So his skin is a little bit more brighter green, almost more of a yellow to it. but that's okay. We can explain that because you'll find these ones together, and these are the low level trolls who are going to be kind of packed up regular stats we're going to use right out of the monster manual, and those will be our regular trolls. But Kettlehead is going to be leading the pack and charging off into battle. As he is directing his commanders, he will be using his superiority dice with precision attacks. He is also going to be using his protection to make sure his troops, his couple of troll brethren that he gets to boss around in the dungeon, stay alive a little bit longer. So just like that, Kettlehead Troll is built. It really took no time because we didn't do a big, huge change and variation out of the stats that we have on the monster manual. We've gotten the items he's carrying addressed, and yeah, super simple, super simple. We still have about half an hour, and I'm not seeing any questions or anything on Kettlehead Troll, so I am going to pop his stat in my monster manual, and let's go in and work on painting a little bit. Normally the show is not about painting whatsoever, but because we're here, why not? We'll call out some of the details on the troll. So there's lots of bits of rope that are holding the parts and pieces together. Like I said, there's some type of slats here on the chest. The turtle shell, a rope belt, and some more slats down low. This bit of skirt is like stitched together hide. And yeah, just a pretty gnarly troll. The kettle on the head, and then the rusty sword. What should we work on a little bit for paint? I really thought that would take a little bit longer than it did. Unless we want to talk about, owl bears. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about owl bears. I'm working on a couple of owl bears. So, both of these came in the Kickstarter as well. I'm going to real quick glue one just because it is loose on its base and I want to get it set. So I'm going to super glue one, and then we'll talk a little bit more about them. So owl bears, I can tell you, I have used quite a bit in my wilderness random encounters and some of my specific wilderness games. But I have never had miniatures for owl bears. Never had miniatures until now. So now that I have these miniatures, I'm pretty excited to be able to use them. So two of them came in this Kickstarter, and this is one of them, and it's just black base coat right now. But you can see this is a chunky monkey. It's got a big, wide, open mouth, very owl face, but more kind of bear body-ish, except it is just roly-poly. And then some feathers in the tail and under the arms. So just a big chunk of a thing. Absolutely a chunk. Now this one is from the same manufacturer, but was produced at a different point in time. So this one's called a Lowland Owl Bear, and this one is a little bit more bear shape, I guess. Not quite as roly-poly. And then the bits of feather coming out from under the forearms. The tail much smaller, more subtle. It does have these almost spikes coming out the back, and it's got rows of them So it's kind of cool. And then the face is definitely a combo of bear feature and owl. So two very different owl bears. And then I've got one other from another manufacturer that's already painted. That one also has antlers. So the way that I plan on utilizing these is the one with antlers is going to be the dad. This roly-poly is going to be the mom with some cubs possibly on the way. And this is going to be the youngest bear. So almost Goldilocks is what I keep coming back to in my thoughts. So what does that mean for stats? I probably am not going to alter the stats of them by any way, shape, or form. I'll probably use standard stats. But it does give us the opportunity, if you were into, making variations for these would be prime examples of why you should do different stats, because the creatures themselves seem extremely different. So just for that reason alone, it would be great to look at them as unique individual characters, if you will, and stat them a little bit different, because they do have those, pretty massive variances if you look at them, just in the shape and size alone. So this one I'm going to give a lot more dynamic basing to, which is why it's set the way it is, because we were going to build it up to be a real scenic forest base. So more mountainous type of feel. So very similar, I guess, in why I wanted to do, as I've started working on this troll, why I started thinking I want to utilize this for the Wednesday show, because it is so different than the other trolls that came with this Kickstarter. Just very, very unique and different, and some kind of comical elements to it. It would be cool to have this be a recurring villain on low-level parties, someone who thinks it's smarter than it is, wearing this silly kettle as a hat. And for me, that's the one piece that just absolutely kills it, this big kettle. I thought about doing that like a brass kettle, but I'm probably going to keep it more like a cast iron kettle, so we will see. But regardless, boy, we are really ahead of time. It's still 15 minutes. But that's okay. Sometimes I think if we wrap up early, we can have a shorter show, and that could be beneficial. So there it is in a nutshell. We created Kettlehead Troll based off of a miniature. We came up with some new stats, new fighting styles, new weapons for attack and defense, and decided to give him superiority dice that he can utilize in combat, because he is a more efficiently trained mercenary troll who's going to boss around with his compatriots and is really just hired to go around and make sure that intruders stay out of a dungeon. Maybe he's hired on to protect an Ettin's lair. Maybe there is a genie who has employed him to make sure that nobody gets into an audience chamber. Who knows what the cases are, but at any point it's a cool miniature that allows us to put a little more character behind the monsters that we're putting on the table, and hopefully allow for our players, through their characters, to build more exciting and entertaining and unique and different stories together at the table. So that's what our Wednesday show Inspiration is all about. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was beneficial. I hope it was insightful. But above all, I hope that it allowed you to get some new creative ideas and look at character and monster creation in a different way if you're into collecting, painting, or just supporting the miniature hobby and tabletop miniature use on your games. So be sure to check out our other shows that we have. We do stream 5 different times throughout the week. So Monday we do a show all about exploring the worlds that we create as shared community and GMs and world builders and creative persons. And Wednesday, of course, we build characters or monsters based off miniatures. Friday, we actually go through and do ratings and reviews on different products, websites, different bits and pieces out of the hobby. Saturday, in the studio painting, that's where you can see me doing some of these beautiful miniature paintings. And then Sunday is a review preview. So also a very short schedule that we just go and talk about what we covered the week before and what we're going to be covering the upcoming week. So if you're able, please join and engage with us here on the channel. Don't hesitate to follow us. We're not looking for subscribers, just followers. We just want to help grow and share a community and to direct people to resources that they will get the most bang for their buck out of and possibly really enjoy in becoming part of the community. So thank you for your support. Be sure to check out all our other social medias. And until our next show, make sure you're keeping track and letting us know where will your adventures take you. Bye-bye.